Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the United States of America podcast. I am your host, Niti, and we are broadcasting live from the Food Church here on North Carolina. Welcome. We welcome you guys to make yourselves comfortable as we go over the current state of the world and our nation. If you have missed any of the past episodes, please be sure to take the time to at least watch the first episode to have a proper introduction to our conversations. These conversations are not otherwise happening in sequential order. Please be aware that we expect you to behave with honor in the comment section. We are a people at peace, and we have declared peace to all nations around the world. This is not a marketing or sales podcast, and we are not sovereign citizens. Sovereign citizen is an oxymoron, and if you say you are a sovereign citizen, you are a moron. A sovereign is a free and honorable living man or woman who operates under God's law, natural law, hermetic law, and who honors themselves and others in peace. One definition for the word citizen is slave, but there are different kinds of citizens. Putting those two words together is an oxymoron. We also do not promote or condone TikTok, Facebook, or any other social media games to test the system or to impose your beliefs onto society at large. This is not a marketing and promotional channel. We are shining a light on knowledge that is being hidden from you. We are sharing the truth about your birthright and your inheritance. We are interested in helping you reclaim your birthright and your inheritance. We are not sitting in judgment of you. This information is a beacon of light for you to use when you choose to seek it. We do have marshals at arms that are designated as moderators who are assisting in the comment section. Please be kind with your words. If you diminish others or you're just being ugly, you will be put in a timeout or deleted and blocked as deemed necessary. If you have any questions, please put them in all caps and only enter them once per show. I am joined on air with our North Carolina Ombudsman, Cynthia Pinkston, who assists us with keeping order during the podcast. And now I am proud to introduce you to Justice Anna Maria, who is joining us live from Alaska today. Hey, ladies.
Hi. How are you guys?
Good.
We're doing good.
Let's go.
Let's go. We are ready. We are ready. We are ready. Okay. So, Anna, we had such a fun time. We were in Tennessee this weekend, and we were at the Self-Reliance Festival. I was presenting the Dissolving Illusions conversation with our North Carolina State Coordinator, Dominic Battistella, and we had wonderful conversations with many of the people there, and we were given a lot of hard questions as well. And so I'm going to bring you some of those questions straight from our boots on the ground in Tennessee, where we had people there from Texas and New Jersey and Philadelphia and New York and all over the country. I was trying to remember where some of the farthest people were, but I mean, we had Kansas and the Dakotas and, like folks from everywhere. And so anyway, one of the things that I was asked from everyone there is, how do we know that this is real, that if we correct our status, that we actually will experience relief? And if this Anna and, James are really who they say they are, then how are they alive? How come somebody hasn't just lasered them? And, why are they allowing them to even live? Because, anyone who generally tries to share the truth, if, they feel like they're all just being killed. Like even during the pandemic, when people like physicians would step up and say, hey, there's no such thing as viruses, or virologists who have like, I've never seen a virus. Like they were all just being murdered. So, this is a big question and I had no answer for them. So if you wouldn't mind.
It's actually pretty simple. The fact is that when you know the law, you can summon the protections of the law. Until you do, you're a victim. The situation is that, for example, with the Colorado 9, I told them not to do what they did. They did it anyway. They got in trouble. They got sentenced to 38 years in prison. as if they were murderers or something. Now, that's an extreme example, but here I am. I'm still fine. I'm not arrested. I'm not in trouble. I'm not in jail. And why is that? Well, it's because I knew the law. I knew the situation. I knew what not to do. And I tried to get them to do the same, and they wouldn't. So that's how they got in trouble. And you see that all the way across the spectrum of things. You know, I have given everybody good advice as to how to stay out of trouble, how to stay in your lane. Don't poke the bear, realize the situation, realize that as far as they're concerned, they're in a war zone, and they're looking for enemies behind every bush. But once you've clearly identified yourself and identified your intent, and you live according to that, then they don't have any reason or means as your employees to harm you. I mean, once they realize that you are their employer and that you are peaceful and that you're a civilian, they're kind of stuck with you. They have to protect you. It's their job to protect you. So ironically, once you come out of the closet and you very clearly declare who you are and what you're doing, and you live according to that, then they've been defanged. I mean, you're their boss. What are they going to do? Are they? It's their job. It's their contractual obligation under every form of law you can think of to protect you. So,
Okay.
When you come out and you do what we're doing and you live according to that, then there's no reason to attack you. In fact, there's every reason to protect you.
So you don't use a magic wand. You just,
Nope.
You don't even have to give them hugs and kisses or anything.
No.
Yeah.
You just know what your role is, and you make it clear. You declare who you are. You declare your business. I mean, think about going into an armed camp during a war. Think of MASH. Think of Corporal Klinger out there, freezing in the cold, wearing the soup can on his hat, for a soup pot for a hat, standing guard. Halt! Who goes there? What's the secret word? Well, we have that kind of knowledge, and we can say, okay, well, it's Joe Q, American civilian, non-combatant, claiming my birthright, living on the land and soil, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, so you're not an enemy combatant, and you're not a foreigner, and you're not at war, and so all these cogs go click, 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 and they go, okay, well, so I guess we have to be nice to you and protect you.
We can stop stealing from you now. At that point, they are literally just criminals, right? If they do anything else at that point, they're just blatant criminals.
Yeah, well, once they've been fully advised and warned and told, and actually have good cause to believe, then there isn't any excuse for continuing to treat us as enemy combatants.
Okay, so the next question that they had for me was, well, I've been arrested before, and whenever they come to my place of business, they show up with a warrant, and they always take me in. I don't have the opportunity to say, like I was saying to this person, that in my situation, when the regulators or whomever come over to try to shut my business down, that I say to them, you're outside of your jurisdiction. I don't say to them, come back with a warrant, because I'm not contracting with them. I say to them, I don't know what you're saying, but if you could please put that in writing for me and send it, then I will, I'll be happy to, look at what you send me. but I need you to send me something in writing. And until you do that, like, I don't really understand the words coming out of your mouth. And I mean, these are people who are being ugly to me and saying, are you selling meat? Are you doing this? Are you doing that? If so, we need to come in and inspect you. And I'm saying, I really don't understand the words that are coming out of your mouth right now. Like, I really don't know what you're talking about, but I know that you're outside of your jurisdiction. And if you were to send me something in writing, then I'd be happy to look at it and, answer you. And I just keep saying that, and they just keep getting angrier. And then they get provoked, and then they want me to be triggered, and then I'm never triggered. And then after about an hour, they'll go away. But it's a huge intimidation process. And for some of these other folks, they'll show up and like try to take custody of their children and try to get CPS right there. And they have warrants and things. So if they show up that way, what is your suggestion?
Well, you already hit upon the primary notification, that is you're outside your jurisdiction. The other thing that you can do as a business to protect yourself is to post a disclaimer and basically just say, you are, we're not inspected, and we're not pretending to be, anything. We are here offering a service, and if you choose to, buy our products or accept our services, you do so under your own power and under your own risk.
I have a buyer beware. It's on my legal. Buyer beware. Do your own due diligence.
Yeah, well, something like that. I kind of favor a more formal disclaimer, just saying, buy and receive services at your own risk.
Yes.
We're not regulated by the government. Thank you. And at that point, you have given full disclosure. Anyone who then chooses to use your services or buy your food is doing so on their own recognizance. You've cut you've cut the government out of the middleman position. And anybody who steps across that line and says, yeah, well, I believe those carrots are safe to eat, they're doing so on their own, and anything else is an obstruction of your right to contract, which of all of the sacred cows there are, your right to contract is the biggie, right up there with your right to your religious freedom. Those are things that they will protect to the death because that's what they depend upon. If you had a restricted right to contract, then you couldn't contract with them either.
That's
you
right.
see, so it's sort of like kung fu. You put your disclaimer out there, and then anyone who wants to contract with you has the absolute right to contract.
Perfect. So, and the other thing that we were saying was because, they're like, well, there's hundreds of people out there trying to tell us, how we can be sovereigns and sovereign citizens and all these things, which we've already clarified that sovereign citizens, that's an oxymoron. That's not what we're about. And they say, we know people, we were learning about this earlier. We were learning about it maybe before 2012. And they say they've known people who have literally been taken to jail. I don't know anything about that back then. Anna, what can you say about that? And I know that you have a system now. I don't know what the situation was in 2012. Can you speak to that in any way?
I think they're probably talking about RUSA, which was a large national movement that was led by Tim Turner. And Tim Turner had part of it, but he didn't have all of it. And I kept trying to get through to him and tell him, okay, you got that much, but there's this and there's this too. And he wouldn't listen. Mm-hmm. He was like a lot of patriot gurus who had their part of the puzzle down, and they didn't want to hear about anybody else's part of the puzzle because I guess they figured it was competition for them. But what happens is that people get focused on their little part of the puzzle and they don't see the rest of it, and then inevitably they get crushed because they're not taking into account all the other factors. And we, for better or worse, were open-minded enough to take in all of the information and continue to work with it until we had a complex thing mapped out. We could see how it was working, and that's the entire difference, really. Tim Turner couldn't defend himself against the IRS, and that's how they used the IRS against him.
Mm.
Um, I can defend myself against the IRS.
Right. You
So,
taught us it's about the language. Like, I don't get a check from Uncle Sam.
right, right.
No
Prove
federal.
that, yeah, prove that my income is federally derived, and that it isn't earnings for private services.
Okay. So the other question is, well, there was many questions. Okay, that was the one about the people coming in. I kind of lost it. I'll go to one of these questions over here while we're waiting for that, while I'm trying to remember what I said. Do you know what this means, Anna? Oh, not this one, but okay, well, we'll take Thomas's question. Please expound on how do we protect our assemblies people from mirroring tactics that you touched on last night, Anna?
Well, I think that the very first thing you can do to defend your position and yourself is to learn the verbiage so that you can recognize the difference between very similarly named entities. You know, learn the differences between the territorial and municipal government entities, for example, so that you can tell instantly which one you're dealing with. Learn the differences in the um, use of the definite article. It's such a simple little word, but it's a world of difference between the United States and the United States. You know, as one of my mentors used to say, an elderly man who's since passed away, he used to say, there's an entire world and a great divide between those United States and these United States. Okay, so um, learning who you are and learning who they are is a process. It doesn't happen overnight. But once you see the difference, you see how it's organized, then it becomes easier and easier. And you can walk down the street and not be confused by, you know, the United States of America on one side and the United States of America on the other side. It all makes sense because you know the style conventions, you know the context, and you can tell the difference between the delegator and the delegatee. And so learning the verbiage and the style conventions is important. And I go through a lot of time and trouble trying to teach that. So number one, learn the telltale differences between the various entities that mirror each other. I'm sorry, I have rampant puppies. They're trying to protect me from a cat walking across the street, no doubt.
Well, gotta have
I,
your security lined up over there.
give me a sec. I'll just close the door. They're
Sure.
being very barky.
Sure. Well, Cynthia.
I'm ready when you are.
Oh yeah, we got lots. We have lots. Let me get through this other. So basically, Anna, we need to understand language that we keep saying every single week. Everyone, we need to understand language. We need to know, by the way, friends out there, that we're not under Black's law. Black's law is water law, and we're under Bouvier's law dictionary, which is for land law. So please be conscious and aware of that. And
be aware that we're not under federal code.
right.
You know, we have patriots out there who are experts in federal code, and that's sort of like being experts in the laws of Canada.
Not our laws, not ours. And
Yeah.
And then etymological definitions of words. It's really important if you guys understand etymology, because and study the words etymology, because then people don't actually know the definitions of words anymore because of the linguistics theft, and it's not being taught properly in school. So we already know, y'all, that it is the de facto schools teaching us the de facto information, which is not going to allow you to operate de jure, which is what we are. We are operating, in peace and in love and under common law. So, do you know what this means, Anna? JoJo Woman says, "How do I void out SPC bot trust that I had done a year by Sovereign Solutions? Done by yours? I don't know what she's saying exactly right there."
Sovereign Solutions is one of those organizations that spring up like dandelions in spring, and they teach people about commercial liens and commercial trusts and that sort of thing. But they don't really integrate any of this information or enable anybody to do anything. Okay. One of the things, I don't spend a lot of time or discuss a lot about the UCC process. Okay. And a lot of people have faulted me for that. But the fact is that we already went through the UCC process and claimed back everything that belongs to Americans for Americans. So what Americans really need to concentrate on is getting their own political status declared and then getting their own stuff back out of the slush pile, so to speak. The slush pile has already been gathered together, and now all they have to do is go and collect their socks. Well, just imagine a lost and found box, right? And a whole bunch of little kids that have lost their mittens and socks, right? So they come and they recognize their own mittens and their own socks. You don't have to go through any big deal about it. So they can pick out their own stuff far more accurately than you could standing over them and trying to hand out things, right?
Right.
So, our theory is, okay, we claimed it. We claimed it all back, and it's there now, and people can go and grab their own stuff.
Right. So you've reversed everybody's power of attorney that they assigned unknowingly. Isn't that basically how that went?
Well, if they reverse it, if they step forward and decide that, okay, well, we're Americans and we want our birthright, then they can reclaim their birthright. And in the meantime, it's protected. Okay, right. So you don't really have to go through the UCC process yourself in order to do that. It's really not going to help you or change anything because we already snatched everybody's stuff out of the fire. The UCC process that these people are going through, they like a special purpose vehicle, and all these things that are created out there in the derivative world. All of that is not anything that we really should concentrate on and worry about because it's been done without our knowledge or permission. It has been done under conditions of deceit and non-disclosure. It's not something that we can control. It's sort of like you can't control somebody calling you a name on the playground, right?
Yeah.
And, so it's the same kind of sort of nasty little kid stuff that they're trying to pull using the Uniform Commercial Code. But we already delved through all that. We already got all of our stuff out of the flames. And we already are standing here going, all right.
So that's like the same as this one. Do you have any steps for using the indemnity bond, and is it necessary for our banking? Are you saying that as well? Like we don't need to address this?
The indemnity bond is it's for the process of insuring property that belongs to the states. And so you can use the indemnity bond. In fact, we're we're working on a process of being able to use it to indemnify personal property belonging to Americans. Okay, but it isn't there yet. And really, the indemnity bond that we have in place and that we use is at a larger scale to protect the interests of the states and the country as a whole, and to enable us to conduct business, if that makes any sense. States have state immunity for a lot of things, but they have to be able to sue and be sued. So in order to establish that, you have to have an indemnity bond posted with the Treasury. So that's what I did, so that the property that is vested in the states cannot be stolen or given away or granted to a foreign country.
Great. All right. So Anna, my question that I kind of blanked out on, and because I had been talking about it too much this morning, is I understand that we're supposed to follow the path that you and James have created by making this Herculean move and raising all the 50 states assemblies, and that we have to follow this blueprint that you write about exactly as it is right now, because we the people have been absent for 150 years. And so for us to actually raise this, I think the only way that that's possible is through James, right? Because of his birthright, because he is the hereditary head of state for the United States of America. You were both able to make this Herculean move happen, not easily, over all of these years. And because this is what's happening, Anna, is that people start this process. You have this structure, this blueprint in which we're supposed to raise our 4 pillars so that we can get all the states established. And then once that is set, then you kind of sunset out of the picture, because you're not trying to control everybody. You're not trying to be, this isn't supposed to be like Anna's United States of America or something. I just want to make this clear for folks, because they seem to be very confused. Like they're supposed to follow somebody, and it isn't, they're just supposed to rando follow somebody. But there is a process. There is a procedure in which you invoke this power and make it known to everyone. And then we have to operate in a correct manner, which no one has ever taught us, that you're teaching us. And I think there's a big disconnection here, because we have all these various state assemblies that they get started, they get going, and then they start teaching something not what you're teaching. And they kind of mess up.
Well, okay. You presented a whole bunch of different issues there. You probably got 6 different major questions in that one question. So, first of all, about James. Technically, anybody who was born in this country could have done the same thing as the last man standing to the contract. Okay? And that's because Jim's ancestor, William Belcher, declared sovereignty in our own right for everybody born in this country. Okay, so anybody that was born in this country after that time period of the Revolutionary War, or anyone descended from one of the soldiers in the Continental Army that fought the Revolutionary War, would have the standing to sue and to protect the interests of the country under the provisions that were established then. It's not just Jim that could do that, because his ancestor made everybody equally a sovereign of this country. All right? What Jim had that not everybody has is the provenance. He had the exact provenance of having been there and having been part of that process, the family being part of that process. So he had the right name and the right credentials and the right family coat of arms and all those other things that he could very readily use and say, okay, well, you could poo-poo and say that Joe Schmo didn't really have that right, or you could try to, weasel around about it. But, we're here. We know what went on. We've got the evidence. Try to poo-poo me. And that's exactly, why is that, like the seal, the shield, the Great Seal shield and all of that, that's straight out of the Belcher coat of arms. And coat of arms is coat of arms. That's one of the identifying factors in European society for hundreds of years. So, what are they going to say? Oh, well, that doesn't mean anything. I'm sorry, it does. And we know the story. We know, how that became the Great Seal of the United States and the Great Seal of the United States of America. We know how it was used. We know all of the history of it. And so he had an advantage in terms of being able to press the claim that Joe Average wouldn't have. But it was an advantage of knowledge, not of base standing, because, like I said, everybody in this country that was one of the soldiers, the lowest ranking soldier in the Continental Army, has exactly the same sovereignty conferred upon him as General Washington. Okay? And everybody that was subsequently born on the land and soil of our states similarly was born in a sovereign capacity, free from all of the wiles and claims of the European monarchs. Anyway, so that's the deal there. Now, as to the structure of the state assemblies, the structure of the state assemblies grew out of the structure of the continental colonial assemblies. You have to remember that we had 200 years of progress before the revolution. And in that time, we had set up a assembly process all across the country during the colonial days. And they called their assembly or assemblage at a national level the House of Burgesses. So you could be a Burgess, that was the representative of your colony, right? And then you had the Queen's appointed governor of your colony, right? And the colonies would send their delegations to the House of Burgesses, and then they would argue over things, and they would present petitions to the Parliament, and all this other stuff would go on. So there was already a government here. It was a British colonial government, but it existed for 200 years prior to the Revolution. So when it came time to reorganize and establish our own government, the incipient American government built on that foundation from the House of Burgesses and the practice of having representatives meet together. And so they developed their congresses, right? And they developed their state assemblies. They just called them by different names, but they had very much the same functions because it was all a representative government. And the structure of what has to be done in a government is very much the same. If you're going to have a representative government, the functions are going to be there no matter what, whether it's a colonial government or a independent and sovereign government. It's still going to have certain functions. You're still going to have to conduct your local business within your state, right? You're still going to have to conduct international business outside the borders of your state, right? You're still going to have to provide your own court system and your own law. You're going to define how you're going to live and what kinds of agreements you're going to have with other countries and other states. And you're going to have some sort of provision for the common good, for the peacekeeping functions, so that you don't have outlaws running, rampaging around and causing trouble, and so that you have some means of responding to natural disasters. So there are your 4 pillars, and they're defined by the functions of a government. You have to have a way of defining how you're going to live within the borders of your state. That's your General Assembly. You have to have a trustworthy means of conducting international affairs. That's your International Business Assembly. Then you have to have your militia, to protect the peace and to provide emergency plans for natural disasters and other things that can affect your people. And number 4, you have to have your judicial system so that you can address issues of conflict in your society and you can enforce your law. So those 4 pillars were not defined by me. Those 4 pillars were defined eons ago by those that were responsible for setting up representative government in England, and later representative government in the colonies, and later representative government for our states.
I should have said that, not called it Anna's way, but you're the teacher for us, Anna. No one knows this. And like you stated in previous episodes, which I encourage everybody to watch, all of you YouTubers out there that are tuning in and you don't know what we're talking about, if you're in the chat, they're making a lot of comments about what's this about? We talk about everything. You might need to watch a previous episode to understand some of this. And this conversation cannot be had in 1 hour. It is something that is ongoing. It is the reason that we meet every single Tuesday. And then Anna has an entire website with like 10 million articles and videos. And it is my encouragement for you to go there, because in the show notes, we have a link tree. In that link tree, there are actually links on the tree. One of them is Anna's website. One is the Assembly website. Please go there. There's places for you to go in there and get education. Those websites are packed with vast amounts of information. And so feel free to go in there and ask a question or whatever. This podcast is not by any means covering all the details. Anna writes articles every, I think, almost day. I mean, a lot. All the time she's writing. So she's writing, she's talking, she's recording. There is lots of information. So please go back and look at that. Don't write in here what's going on. Please go to the show notes. And then there's a link for whatever you need. And so I apologize for that, Anna. Sorry. But it is something you're just teaching us. That's what everybody needs to understand. You're the only one that we know that knows the correct procedure. And most people alive today don't know this information.
Well, why would they? They never experienced that government in their lifetime. Their grandparents did, or great-grandparents, but they haven't. And so there's no real reason that we would know the ins and outs of our own government, except that we study it independently. It's never taught to us in school. Now, when I went to school back in the dinosaur days, we were lucky enough that we had 2 different books. One called American History, one called U.S. History. And so it was put before us that, there are 2 different governments. There are 2 different things, 2 different subject matters there to study. In the years since then, the public schools have been studying only U.S. history. They only teach U.S. history, which means that Americans have been left unaware of their own American history, which is a gross travesty and betrayal of trust, but which is nonetheless true. So you've got 3 generations of Americans who have grown up unaware of their own history, and even unaware of the fact that American history is a separate topic from U.S. history. All right. So, I'm bringing this information forward because I'm old enough to remember that, yes, we had two books. One was U.S. history, one was American history, and this is how they were organized out. All right. So I'm here to tell the new generations that, okay, look at this, folks. You're missing out on your history. You're thinking of yourself as an American, and you should. Um, but you don't know your own history. You don't know how your own government is supposed to be organized, and therefore you don't know how to restore your own government to full function. And I talk about this. I say it's like a 6-cylinder engine, and we're operating on 4. All right. So, granted, we're operating, but we need to get everything restored. We need to reconstruct. We need to get back to the way it's supposed to be functioning. And then we need to, take it to heart and really, make it our ethos that we're going to participate in our government. Because in a self-governing nation, if you don't participate, guess what? If you don't keep watch, then, the rats get in and you wind up in the situation we're in now, where you may have the right, but unless you exercise that right, it's meaningless. And I just got a wonderful thing in the mail. It's a new little pin for the Rat Watch group.
Can you hold it up towards the camera, Anna?
It's I don't know if we can do this.
There you go.
Anyway, it's for the Rat Watch group.
Cool.
All right. This is for people that are dedicated to watching the government, to understanding what the government is, how it's supposed to operate, and making sure that it operates that way.
Yeah, if we don't call out the fraud, then who will?
Right. There's nobody here but us chickens. If we don't raise our hand and object, they just assume, oh, well, see, they contracted into this. They didn't object,
There's that law of assumption. So that's what people don't understand is how immoral the corporatocracy is in the way that it operates by simply, if you don't respond, if you don't participate, they just assume. And
right.
They operate on an assumption, and then they fearmonger. That's the problem, Anna, is that there, so this is the other question that we got when we were, there was a lot of questions, lots of questions, but they're like, well, we don't want to be on a list. I'm like, you're already on the list, brother. You're on the list. They're like, we don't want to be on a list. I said, well, listen, you're on the list.
Right.
You're on the lowest list of all.
Right.
So what you want to do is, you were born as an American state national, meaning like the state is the nation, because states are they're nation states.
Right.
And you were born in a nation state. And so you're an American state national.
Right.
Because it's of the Americas. You were born in a state, a nation state on America.
Right.
Yeah.
But they don't have nationality from your state.
They don't understand they don't understand the language, Anna. This is the biggest problem. So, a lot of folks, by the way, make comments on the YouTube and they're like, stop trying to translate what Anna's saying. And I'm here to say Anna's speaking on a very high frequency, number one. Number two, there's a lot of language differential because there's a knowledge differential, as has been established by the corporatocracy on purpose in an effort to keep a boot on your neck, folks. And so I'm not saying this because I think that you're not knowledgeable enough to understand, Anna. I'm not doing this to diminish you. So just understand that there are a lot of folks that there's a big knowledge differential. And depending on how old you are, a lot of folks don't even understand the word jurisdiction. They just don't even know what that means. And they don't even know that they have power of their own. I can't tell you how many people that I talk to, And I mean, the reason that I say the things that I do, the reason that we're leading the conversation in the way that we are, is because Anna has to stay right up here. She can't come down here and join us. Okay. She has to stay right here with her high vibration. This is a spiritual war. And the only way to win the war is to raise your vibration. What's your vibration? It is your consciousness. What is your consciousness? Your consciousness is how frequently are you intersecting with truth and morality? How frequently are you operating in truth and morality? And this is a wide range of frequencies because, you got the folks that are still watching Netflix every night and they're on a very low frequency as per the programming. So I'm not trying to take more of your time, Anna. They want to hear only from you. They don't want to really hear from me. But I wanted to clarify that position, and I figured you would straighten me out if I was wrong about that.
Well, I think that the number one problem that people have coming in to our assemblies is that they don't understand that it's not a hierarchical system. What they do is they look at me and they assume I'm a politician. They assume that I'm running for office, or that I'm going to run for president or something like that. And no, I'm here as a grandmother. I'm here in a completely different capacity. And they need to get this hierarchy business out of their heads. It's hard for them to do because that's all they've known all their lives. But I ask everybody to kind of posit this little vision. A guy gets out of the service, he takes off his uniform, he puts on his civvies, he walks into the doorway of this big auditorium, and there's an entire room full of people there. And he walks in kind of bedazed and bedeviled and going, well, who's in charge here? And they all turn around with one accord, look at him and say, we are. Every single mouth in the whole place just opens and spontaneously says, we are. And, it's a shock to somebody coming out of a hierarchical rank system, where you've got the top dogs and the middle dogs and the lower, end of it all. This is how we've been programmed, is to function in terms of assumptions of authority and rank and office, because that's how they function. That's how the U.S. functions. That's not how the American government functions, but that's how the U.S. government functions. So now that we're learning the U.S. is different, and that the American government has this entirely different tradition, it's hard to make that adjustment both in your own mind and in the practical aspects of being part of your own government. But I think we need some visuals, some video clips. We need some things that will kind of wake people up and jar them to a point where they go, oh, I get it. Or at least they start to get it. They get the idea of a government that is run by mom and pop. A government that is not run by political parties. A government that is accessible to the people because it is the people. And a government that holds the general jurisdiction of this country, which is actually the most powerful government, the government over all of the delegated authorities. I mean, when people start really realizing that, oh my God, we've left the store in the care of our employees and nobody's been minding the store or checking over the books. Oh, well, this is how we've gotten into this situation then. The light goes on, the little light bulb goes blink, and all of a sudden they realize what a perilous position they put themselves and their country in by not paying attention and not actually organizing and bringing their states into session and conducting their business. And when I went out and started this whole thing, started making the rounds to the other diplomatic like the UN and all this stuff. What we got back from a lot of them was, well, it's your own fault that things are as messed up as they are because you haven't been doing your part. You haven't been organizing your state assemblies, and you haven't been running your business, and you haven't been making decisions, and you've been letting these municipal corporations represent you. So what were the rest of us supposed to think?
Wow.
Well, what can I say? That's all true. Now, we weren't told what happened. Everything was hush hush. Everything was national security, right? Everything was cloak and dagger after the Civil War. Nobody was saying nothing to nobody about nothing. We were never even told that, as far as our subcontractors were concerned, the war wasn't over. We were never told that. Hello.
Why we still have the war flag? We don't even still use the peace flag.
Yeah, they don't use the peace flag because, as far as they're concerned, the war is ongoing. The Civil War never ended, so far as they're concerned. It ended on the land, but it didn't end on the sea, you see. And so they've continued their mercenary war, their conflict, in spite of everything, and they never bothered to tell us. And they've even mischaracterized our entire country as a battlefield. And they've been fighting among themselves this entire time.
In our name.
In our name, using our resources. And we're finally getting to the point now where we're in control of our resources to a greater and greater degree. And so what they've been doing is they've been war profiteering in our names. They've been, apportioning huge amounts of money to, say, Ukraine, but it's not their money and it's not their credit. It's our money and our credit. And so
on our lives. That's the.
And so, part of my role is to go in there and say, wait a minute, these guys are impersonating us. That's our money and our credit, and they don't have a thing to say about it. They can't just apportion our money and our credit according to what they think. It's like reporting a credit card hacker to the bank. You've got this unauthorized charging agent that's going out there and charging up stuff on your credit card, and you didn't give them authorization to do that. Well, what do? You go to the bank and you say, hey, look, I didn't give that guy permission to make charges on my account. Essentially, that's what we're doing now to rein in this entire situation, is we're putting it on the banks. We're making the banks liable for extending our credit and endangering our assets for these yahoos.
What do the banks say to you, Anna? When you bring that up to the banks, then what do they say to you?
Well, they have a tendency to either go into bankruptcy, or they have a tendency to curl up their toes and do whatever I tell them to do. Because the bottom line is that it is our assets and it is our money and it is our labor and it is our credit that is being commandeered and abused by subcontractors who have no right or reason to be accessing our credit in that manner. They have specific, well-defined, limited, delegated authority. And they have expanded upon that and gone off the farm and done all sorts of things in our name that they were never authorized to do. And they have just presumed that they had the right to do it because they got away with it and nobody got organized and told them they couldn't. So, you see one of the recent irritations, all the people that were burned out in Lahaina got, what was it, $750 from the federal government, while billions is being sent to Ukraine. Does that represent me? Does that represent you? No. Does that do anything for the people in Hawaii? No. Why in the hell aren't we keeping our own money here in our own country, taking care of our own people first, and then worrying about whatever happens in the rest of the world?
They've done it repeatedly, every hurricane, every whatever, and then they extend the insurance and then they make Americans pay for that as well. Okay, so we're down to the last 5 minutes, Anna. We do this every time because we're always having so much fun. And we needed these other questions to be answered. These were big questions. Are we allowed to still ask you some more questions? What's the situation today?
I have a few more minutes. If we're not stuck, but not a lot of time, so I can call it.
Okay. We'll call it this time, you guys. If we didn't get to your question, one question I do want to show up here is Georgia. This is from somebody in Georgia. When will the recording secretary start back taking new people? Why are they not taking new people in Georgia?
I have no idea.
All right, we need to figure out. Let's maybe figure out what's going on in Georgia, because there should be no reason. But at least I figured you would know, Anna, if there's a reason.
Well, there was a flap about, whether you could use dog Latin signatures as a witness. And I just came in and said, don't use dog Latin period at all.
Right.
But, if you're going to be a witness, be a witness. But I think we got that straightened out, and I don't see any reason why they wouldn't be taking on new people.
Okay. Georgia is taking people according to Karen Sandler down here. So whoever this Monet, look at Karen Sandler's. Georgia's taking people. That means you must not be at the right place. Go to the website, go to the links in the show notes, and then go to the ASN link, which is the TASA link, the American State Assembly's link, and then click on Georgia, and that should take you to the person who should be able to help you. Yeah. And then if you still have trouble, then let us know. Make a comment, come back to this show, put it in the comments. I'm reading them, and I will find out, and we will let Anna know, and we will straighten it out.
Yeah, the whole point is for us to bring as many Americans home to the land and soil as possible.
Yes.
Okay. So this is a rescue operation. Your little international ship of state, which is like a wooden three-master, is out patrolling the coastline, picking up drowning Americans, putting them on deck, and then bringing them back to shore.
Here's one more strange question. How can our American Assembly ask if I am human to verify? Why? What is this person talking about, Anna? Do you know?
I think there's a program, one of those robot detecting programs where you say, I'm not a robot, that kind of thing. It's verify that you're a living being, that you're not. And unfortunately, those programs are provided by outside providers like Cloudflare, so those robot filtering so that we don't get some sort of automated attack where there are all these bots that come in and just, sign up a million different things in the name of, Mm-hmm. So like Cloudflare puts this out and says, verify that you're a human, but Cloudflare doesn't know what human means.
It's an AI, friend. So William, don't listen. We have to use tech just like everybody else. So the tech has stuff in it. Just, you can't question every doggone thing. And this is, Anna, like what's going on at the Walmarts. Like apparently people are saying, oh, because of the 4th Amendment, I don't have to show you my receipt. Y'all, everybody out there, we already said we're not doing these little TikTok things or whatever. There's a lot of people out there who are trying to flex or trying to what's the word I'm looking for, Cynthia? She knows.
Create an issue. Unnecessarily create an issue.
Yeah. Don't go out there, friends, and act like, you know what I find, Anna, is that the de facto has done a wonderful job of not allowing people to develop and mature socially and otherwise. They've created their art of war tactics have actually created a problem where most people are just so combative that even within the assemblies, there is a constant combative thing going on. It's part of our brainwashing. You guys, we're glitching. You got to kind of snap out of it because we're operating in love. You have to choose love. You get to choose. This is the most polarizing time, friends. So you're going to be attracted to the negative polarity or the positive polarity. You got to choose the positive polarity, which means be bigger, be better, just be better. Okay. And real quick, is this a quick one? Is this not a quick one, Anna? Can you expound on
Well,
the
I'm looking at Article 607, and of course, I don't have an encyclopedic knowledge that would just take me right there to Article 607. But I can tell you that this has been a process, and a lot of people start out with Article 1 and they read all the way through. That's really not the best way to study this. The best way to study this is to start out with the TASA website, which is updated and kept updated for the latest changes and refinements. This has been a whole process. And
Anna's been growing and learning, y'all. She's been growing and learning.
yeah, well, and so have we all. We've all, found out new things. Also, what we've been studying has been changing right under our feet. I mean, we've gone through 2 huge national bankruptcies in the past, period of years since we've been doing this. And every time this happens, then all of the things change.
Right.
So things that were current in 2015 and that were viable processes then are not now because the entire bureaucracy that was supporting that is gone. So I would start with the most recent articles and read backwards.
Yeah. You guys, when we were talking to you about going to her website and reading her 25 million articles, then she's like, bless you, Anna. They start at the beginning and go back because there's been a lot of things, and you all are watching the de facto change things on the minute. Just like these crazy people are taking statues down. Do you think that the children in the future are ever going to know that they were ever there in the first place?
Right.
You can make up history, y'all. When the mom and dad have a fight, then the children rarely know why they had a fight.
Right.
So anyway,
exactly.
Anna, unless you have something major closing, I want to respect your time. Let's just, friends, we're going to see you next Tuesday. Come back next Tuesday. What would you like to close with, Anna? Anything in particular?
Well, I just wanted to key on the fact that at the end of the day, what motivates everything that's worth doing or thinking or being committed to is love. I mean, you have to have a love first of all, of yourself. You have to learn how to respect and love yourself. And after that, you can learn to respect and love your neighbor and, your family and your community and your state and your country as a whole. And so it's a matter of learning to have this positive, loving, nurturing energy toward the world and toward yourself that allows self-governance to be so much easier on everyone. It sort of sets the tone, if you will, for what we do and how we do it. Everything that we are seeing is it's a lesson in that the ends do not justify the means. If I were to be critical of everything that I've seen in the run-amok sphere of the government, it's that there have been people involved in high levels of the government, of the U.S. government, as opposed to the American government, who have thought that it didn't matter how they got there. If they had a worthy goal, then that was enough. And they could lie, cheat, steal, rape, pillage, and plunder, and do whatever else was necessary to get to this far off worthy goal, which they call the greater good. Okay. And the truth is that number one, there is no greater good than the good that is the protection of the people and their property and the peace. And the secondary lie is that there is any justification for doing these criminal things in the name of some better good, some greater thing. It's an irrational and illogical state of mind that leads people to kill for Jesus. Think about it. It's the same kind of thing. People are losing track of love. They're losing track of the real message. And it is the same in government as it is for a religion. Okay, so we have to keep our minds and our hearts focused on what's good and doing what's good for the sake of what's good, okay? And we have to do it the right way. The right thing for the right reasons results in the right result, okay? And anything else goes astray. So we have to keep focused on that.
We have to care, friends. We have to care about everybody. So when you're wanting to know, what about blah, 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 then you need to think about, if you're thinking about it for yourself, you also have to think about it for others. Whatever you think about for yourself, you have to think about it for others. We're all in this together, and we are all one. So we love you so much. Anna, we love you, and thank you so much for making time for us and for speaking with everybody like this in this open forum. And we are going to just be very excited and looking forward to next week. We see you guys next Tuesday at 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time.
Okay.
Bye.
Good night.